Excerpts from Chapter 30 of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. "Mr. Arthur, honey," said Atticus, gently correcting me. "Jean Louise, this is Mr. Arthur Radley. I believe he already knows you." Mr. Tate sat looking intently at Boo through his horn-rimmed glasses. He was about to speak when Dr. Reynolds came down the hall. "Everybody out," he said, as he came in the door. "Evenin', Arthur. Didn't notice you the first time I was here." Said Atticus, glancing at Boo. "Heck, let's go out on the front porch. There are plenty of chairs out there, and it's still warm enough."
"Won't you have a seat, Mr. Arthur? This rocking chair is nice and comfortable."
My small fantasy about him was alive again. He would be sitting on the porch.
"Right pretty spell we're having, isn't it, Mr. Arthur?"
"Yes, a right pretty spell."
Feeling slightly unreal, I led him to the chair farthest from Atticus and Mr. Tate. It was in deep shadow. Boo would feel more comfortable in the dark. Atticus pushed up his glasses and pressed his fingers to his eyes.
"Jem's not quite 13. No, he's already 13. I can't remember. Anyway, it'll come before county court." "Mr. Finch, hold on," said Mr. Tate. "Jem never stabbed Bob Ewell." "Heck, you haven't said it, but I know what you're thinking. Thank you for it. Jean Louise," he turned to me, "you said Jem yanked Mr. Ewell off you?"
"Yes, sir. That's what I thought.
See there, Heck? Thank you from the bottom of my heart, but I don't want my boy starting out with something like this over his head. Best way to clear the air is to have it all out in the open. I don't want him growing up with a whisper about him. I don't want anybody saying, 'Jem Finch, his daddy paid a mint to get him out of that.' Sooner we get this over with, the better." "Mr. Finch," Mr. Tate said stolidly, "Bob Ewell fell on his knife. He killed himself. He'd flung Jem down. He stumbled over a root under that tree, and look, I can show you." Mr. Tate reached in his side pocket and withdrew a long switchblade knife. As he did so, Dr. Reynolds came to the door. "The deceased's under that tree, Doctor, just inside the schoolyard." "Jem's all right. He won't wake up tonight, I hope, so don't worry. That the knife that killed him, Heck?" "No, sir, still in him. Looked like a kitchen knife from the handle. Ken ought to be there with the hearse by now, Doctor. Night." Mr. Tate flicked open the knife. "See there? Stabbed himself through that soft stuff between his ribs. His whole weight drove it in." Mr. Tate closed the knife and jammed it back in his pocket. "Scout is 8 years old," he said. "She was too scared to know exactly what went on." "I won't have it," Atticus said softly. "God damn it, I'm not thinking of Jem!" Mr. Tate's boot hit the floorboards so hard, the lights in Miss Maudie's bedroom went on. Miss Stephanie Crawford's lights went on. When Mr. Tate spoke again, his voice was barely audible. "Mr. Finch, I hate to fight you when you're like this. I do know that for once you haven't been able to put 2 and 2 together, and we've got to settle this tonight, because tomorrow'll be too late. Bob Ewell's got a kitchen knife in his craw." Mr. Tate added that Atticus wasn't going to stand there and maintain that any boy Jem's size with a busted arm had fight enough left in him to tackle and kill a grown man in the pitch dark. "Heck," said Atticus abruptly, "that was a switchblade you were waving. Where'd you get it?" "Took it off a drunk man," Mr. Tate answered coolly. I was trying to remember. Mr. Ewell was on me. Then he went down. Jem must have gotten up. At least I thought. Heck? I said I took it off a drunk man downtown tonight. You will probably found that kitchen knife in the dump somewhere. Honed it down and bided his time. Just bided his time. Mr. Tate stopped pacing. He stopped in front of Atticus, and his back was to us. I'm not a very good man, sir, but I am sheriff of Macomb County. There's a black boy dead for no reason, and the man responsible for it's dead. Let the dead bury the dead this time, Mr. Finch. Let the dead bury the dead. I never heard tell that it's against the law for a citizen to do his utmost to prevent a crime from being committed, which is exactly what he did. But maybe you'll say it's my duty to tell the town all about it and not hush it up. Know what had happened then? All the ladies in Macomb, including my wife, would be knocking on his door bringing angel food cakes. To my way of thinking, Mr. Finch, taking the one man who's done you and this town a great service and dragging him with his shy ways into the limelight, to me that's a sin. It's a sin, and I'm not about to have it on my head. If it was any other man, it'd be different. But not this man, Mr. Finch. I may not be much, Mr. Finch, but I'm still sheriff of Macomb County, and Bob Ewell fell on his knife. Good night, sir. Mr. Tate stamped off the porch and strode across the front yard. His car door slammed and he drove away. Atticus sat looking at the floor for a long time. Finally he raised his head. "Scout," he said, "Mr. Ewell fell on his knife. Can you possibly understand?" I ran to him and hugged him and kissed him with all my might. "Yes, sir, I understand," I reassured him. "Mr. Tate was right." Atticus disengaged himself and looked at me. "What do you mean?" "Well, it'd be sort of like shooting a mockingbird, wouldn't it?" Atticus put his face in my hair and rubbed it. When he got up and walked across the porch into the shadows, his youthful step had returned. Before he went inside the house, he stopped in front of Boo Radley. "Thank you for my children, Arthur," he said.